Right then, class, settle down, settle down. Professor Yorkie here. Bit of a cold, but we're carrying on. It's time for some Kerbal Space Program 2. So let's give this a shot and see what's what. In we go. Start a new campaign. Difficulty normal. Campaign new is Mission Impractical. And we'll stick with the Kerbal Space Agency. Heading to the planet, hopefully. That's fine. We'll keep this tutorial messages on. Many years ago, I did try Kerbal Space Program, the original. I didn't get that far with it. Let's see if this works any better. At least for me. As a reminder, I have a... Oh, hang on, we're getting it. Never mind, I'll go into my details some other time.
Your new space program, leaping forward into the cosmos. Since the dawn of Kerbal kind, we have looked to the sky and wondered what sublime mysteries lie hidden in the darkness.
Indeed.
Like jewels never beheld. These untold treasures may soon reveal themselves due to the efforts recently founded Kerbal Space Program.
Oh my. There you are.
I think that might have been the only copy of the orientation film.
Oh dear.
Hold on! Slides, somewhere. Welcome to your first day running the Kerbal Space Program. This campus hosts the greatest ever gathering of astronomers, astronauts, and engineers. After years of focused effort, this collection of geniuses has created several very impressive buildings. We believe we have all the necessary pieces to take our first steps off the ground. The best way to advance our technologies further is to get up there and learn by doing. All we need now is somebody to show us how to put all these parts together. Well, we also need somebody to help us out with the flying. We need a lot of help, actually. That's why you're here. My name is Paige, by the way. If you need any hints, feel free to visit me over at the training center.
We will.
Everything in there is well padded, so it's a great place to get up and running. Welcome aboard.
Good. All good. You hear that, class? We're surrounded by the best astrologers and engine shunters. So behave yourself. Right, hello and welcome to Kerbal Space Center. This campus has everything you need to turn your fledgling space program into the stuff of legends. Or myths. Our engineers have created a training program that will guide you through building and flying your very first rocket. You can go through these lessons here at the training center. If you want to start building right away, the vehicle assembly building is where you want to be. And that, it seems... This is where we are, yes. The training center is where we go to learn how to build and fly rockets, planes, and rovers. Lessons take place in a simulation, and you can start a lesson at any time, even in the middle of an active flight. When you're done, we'll put you right back where we found you. Alright, let's go through Space is the place. Build, launch, stage, and land the rocket in suborbital flight. Learn the fundamentals. We'll have to start somewhere. How do rockets work? Your game will be paused while in the tutorial. Let's go. Jolly, a tutorial shouldn't take that long to load.
Space is the place. So you want to get to space. Have you tried rockets? Rockets use fuel and engines to create thrust, which propels them forward. When a fuel tank is empty, it is dropped to stay as lightweight as possible, allowing the rocket to go even faster. These tanks, as well as other expendable parts of a rocket, are called stages. Different stages do different things. Often the first stage is very powerful, with just enough fuel to get the vehicle through the atmosphere. The second stage usually has a low-thrust engine that, while not as powerful, is more fuel efficient. After dropping the heavier first stage and leaving the atmosphere, the second stage engine pushes the much lighter second stage to orbital speed.
And then we crash. I mean, we land.
On a flight to space, the final stage parachutes back down to the surface, ideally in one piece.
There we are. You have learned how to get space. Right, next. So today it looks like we're learning about space.
Welcome to the launch pad. As you embark on your journey into rocketry, it's important to get all the crashing out of your system here in the simulator. It really cuts down on the awkward phone calls.
I can understand that.
Today you'll be launching into the virtual skies over KSC, where you'll learn how to control a rocket. Let's learn how to rotate the flight camera. That way, you can see the launch from your favorite angle. Great! You can also zoom the camera in and out.
Yep, standard.
Nice! Go ahead and pick your favorite view for this launch. Your rocket is ready for launch. Every good launch starts with a big green button and lots of fire.
Let's go.
Most bad launches do too, actually.
In fact, bad launches probably have more fire.
Good! Ascend to 1,000 meters, and then we'll learn some controls.
And we're at 1,000.
Okay, you're a kilometer up. You can still crash, but you'll have more time to correct your course if you start pointing at the ground.
I think
Let's learn some rocket controls.
I think she means more time to panic.
When flying a rocket or a plane, we have specific terms for moving. Pitch tilts your rocket's nose up and down.
Right.
Nice pitch. Now pitch up until you're flying straight up.
We are. We are. Tilted upward. Line S. Come on. That should be good. That's up with an angle. Well, we... Oh. Yeah. That should be good. I mean, we're pointing up. Now what? I mean, now we're up. I think it's got locked. I do believe it may have got locked. That's cool. Well, that's the engine. I'm not sure what happened there. It does not seem to have done what it's meant to, and we're coming down to crash.
True that space is in all directions. It's very difficult to take a shortcut through the ground. Let's try that again.
Must we? Can we instead just go on to the next course because you got locked?
Welcome to the launch pad.
Right.
Let's learn how to rotate the flight camera. That way, you can see the... Great! You can also zoom the camera in and out. Nice.
Good.
Go ahead and pick your rocket is ready for launch. Every good launch starts with a big green button.
One more
and
attempt.
Lots of fire. Looking good. Ascend to 1,000 meters, and then we'll learn some controls.
Is there something that
you're
indicates
a kilometer up. You can still crash, but you'll have more time when flying a rocket or a plane. We have specific terms for moving. Pitch tilts your rocket's nose up and down. Nice pitch. Now pitch. Let's move on.
Okay.
Yaw steers your rocket left and right. Try it now. Now yaw to the left. Excellent. Now for the final control. Roll rotates your rocket clockwise and counterclockwise. That's the basics of rocket flight. Feel free to experiment with the controls. We can move on.
Next one. I don't know why it didn't work the first time. It should have done, but it didn't.
So you want to get to space. It's time to make a rocket.
Right, first rocket coming up.
A simple rocket requires 4 crucial components: a command module, fuel tank, engine, and parachute. Let's start by learning how to add. A command module allows us to control our vessel. As long as there is at least one command module on board, our rocket will be operational. This rocket will use a command pod, which can be manned by a Kerbal and is located in the pods category.
All right.
Or multiple Kerbals. It all depends on the crew capacity of the part. For this lesson, we're going to make a small rocket, so we need a small command pod. Great! It doesn't look like much, but it's a promising start. The next thing our rocket needs is a fuel tank. Fuel, or how about that one? Rocketry Weekly called. Notice the part is... Now that's beginning to look like a rocket. Well, almost. We need an engine. Here at the KSP, we have 4 different types of engines: launcher, sustainer, orbital, and deep space engines.
Good.
To break free of Kerbin's soupy atmosphere, we want to... Now let's add the sustainer engine to the fuel tank. Excellent! Our rocket is looking pretty great. We just need one final touch. As is, our rocket can absolutely take flight. Our one Kerbal rocket doesn't weigh much, so we only need... Now, all we need to do... Congratulations!
Nice!
You've just built a rocket. Are you sure you haven't done this
On we
before?
go. Little plug and play there, or plug and pray. See if it launches. Well, we're moving on. I don't know if it's going to give us the launch on this one.
As you start to build rockets, you'll want to see your designs from other angles. Let's learn how to manipulate the camera inside the V. First, let's rotate the nice. Now let's zoom the camera in and out. Great. Now let's pan the camera up. You can also focus your camera at a specific part. If you want to view your rocket from the top, front, or sides, switch to blueprint mode. You can change the camera's direction by selecting different. If you ever get lost in the VAB, you can always reset the camera.
All right. And that would be home to reset.
Nice. Now you can get at those hard-to-reach parts of your rocket.
Alright, that was just camera control, that's fine. Next, tutorial. Pay attention, class, we've got a lot to learn here. I certainly do anyway.
Your rocket's ready. Let's take it out for a little hop. Let's move this rocket to a launch pad. Welcome to the launch pad. Today, you'll be flying straight up.
Right.
Your rocket should do fine without any steering inputs. But if things get out of line somehow, feel free to intervene.
And we should have a countdown. Except it's not doing it. So let's just go. Couple of kilometers.
The launch tower and your flight is underway. Let's learn about staging. Rockets are constructed in sections called stages. Each stage is designed for a different part of a mission. When a stage completes its job, it's dropped to shed weight. On your right, you'll find the staging stack. It displays all of the functions contained in each stage. Every time you select the Go button, you'll activate a new stage, starting from the bottom of the stack.
All right.
Each stage's fuel supply is shown on a bar next to the stage. Your active stage, stage 1, still has a little fuel in it. When it goes dry, you'll drop that stage by selecting Go.
Very well. And there we go.
Your first stage is out of fuel, and all it is doing is slowing you down. To drop that weight, you're going to activate your next stage. That will activate a decoupler, which will drop your empty stage. It will also activate your next engine. Once you activate ready, your rocket needs all its parts. Please try again.
Try that again. I accidentally clicked twice. But we're almost there. Right.
Your rocket's ready. Let's move
Launch.
this rocket to a launch. Welcome to the launch pad.
Go.
Today you'll be flying straight up. Your rocket should do fine without any steering inputs. But if things get out of line somehow, feel free to intervene.
Watching the fuel come down.
You've cleared the launch tower, and on your right, you'll find each stage's fuel supply is shown on a bar next to the stage.
And then...
Your first stage is out of fuel. Ready?
Nice.
Hit Go to lose that mass.
And there we are, moving up.
Congratulations! You're nearly to space, and your next set of fuel tanks are empty. Now is a good time to drop them. Your capsule will now continue coasting up. All that's left to do is gaze back down at Kerbal and wonder if you remembered to lock your car. Nice work!
And there we are. The next one would be coming down, I assume. A simple rocket going up. Now we need to come down without crushing. Theoretically.
Your capsule has a lot of momentum. If you're curious how high up you are, take a
20,
look at your altimeter. You're so high
20
that you can
kilometers.
see the curve of the horizon. Rocketry involves a lot of waiting between the cool explosions. You can speed up time by selecting the time warp controls at the bottom of your screen. Check out your altimeter. You're about to start falling back down. Let's slow down and enjoy the view.
Press that to select the first arrow in the time warp. Alright.
Great job. You're now a master of time. Try not to use this new power for evil.
I don't think we're going to make orbit, but we may do. Next. We've done staging, etc. See what the next one is. I'm assuming landing.
What goes up must come down. Wind resistance will slow down your capsule's descent, but not enough to prevent it from turning into a bunch of tiny capsules when it lands. That's why we've attached a parachute. If you deploy your parachute too early, it'll be torn off. If you deploy it too late, you'll do some unplanned underground exploration. The sweet spot for Kerbin is between 20,000 and 2,000 meters.
All right.
Okay, you're low enough to activate the final stage that contains your parachute. Hit go to pop your chute.
In we go. And the chute deploys.
Nice work. The parachute will trail your capsule for a bit without fully opening. Once you've slowed down enough, it'll open all the way by itself.
Open up. Open up. There we are.
Your parachute is now fully deployed and slowing the capsule to a safe velocity. Congratulations! If this were real, you'd find celebratory snacks in the VAB kitchen.
And we're done. Oh, I don't need to replay. Hit the wrong thing there. Now we have to go through that again. Be careful what buttons you hit, class. I know some of you are very good at pressing buttons. Pushing mine anyway.
Down. Wind resistance. If you deploy your parachute too early, it'll... Okay, you're low enough to activate the... Hit go to pop your chute. Nice work. The parachute will trail your capsule for a bit without fully opening. Once you've slowed down,
Once we get low,
it'll
we'll
open all the way by itself. Your parachute is now fully deployed and slowing the capsule to...
Tutorial. So that's the first tutorial done. Now, what's in the VAB? That's to actually build. But we don't have. Let's get out of here if we can. Come on. Training center. Missing the ground. Let's see what this is about.
Missing the ground. If you want to visit space for more than a couple of minutes, you'll need to get to orbit. An object is in orbit when it's moving sideways so quickly that even as gravity causes it to fall, it keeps missing the ground. As long as that object isn't slowed down by anything, it follows the same path every time it goes around the body it's orbiting. Forever. If that object is a Kerbal, it is recommended that they bring lots of snacks. So since your goal is to move horizontally at a high speed, why not launch sideways? On Kerbin, the atmosphere is like a thick soup. You waste a lot of fuel trying to fly through it horizontally. By launching vertically, you cut through the thickest part of the atmosphere as quick as possible. Most orbital rockets begin tilting toward the horizon soon after they leave the launch pad. This maneuver, called a gravity turn, uses the planet's gravity to turn the ship and reduces the amount of fuel needed to achieve a stable orbit. When launching near the equator, your gravity turns should point toward the east, since your vehicle gets a free boost from the planet's rotation. Thanks, planet!
Makes sense.
Once a vehicle is moving quickly enough that its arc will take it above the atmosphere, it shuts down its engines and coasts to space. Once it nears the top of that arc, the vehicle needs to fire its engines a second time to keep itself from falling back down to the planet.
I see.
Doing this turns that arc into a nice big circle. Congratulations! You've missed the ground.
Right. Okay, nice. And all Valentine is there having a little snack. Come on, we don't need to freeze. Yeah. Now for a practical demonstration.
When you're making a rocket, it's often easiest to work top to bottom, tailoring each stage to carry the weight of everything above it. To give you a head start, I've already placed an upper stage, perfect for maneuvering in the vacuum of space. It could use another, more powerful stage to push it up to space from Kerbin's surface. Let's turn this vehicle into a multi-stage rocket.
So be it.
Anytime we intend to drop an empty stage after using all of its fuel, we connect it to the stage above it using a decoupler. Add that decoupler to the bottom of your rocket. We need to attach a larger, more powerful lower stage to the bottom of your rocket. To keep things simple, I've whipped up a new lower stage in another workspace. You can bring saved vehicles and other sub-assemblies into an in-progress workspace by merging it. Let's merge my lower stage into this VAB workspace.
Where is it? Ah. That's it? No. Where is it? Select load workspace. I don't see oh, it's up there.
Out in the real world, this list would show all of your saved workspaces. Here in the simulator, I'm only showing you the lower stage you need to merge. Now that the lower stage has been merged into your current workspace, you can see it next to the upper stage. Select the lower stage and connect it. Perfect!
Nice.
Merging is a very powerful tool. Anytime you want to reuse a particular booster, lander, or other element from an existing rocket, merging saves you the hassle of making the same thing over and over.
On to the next. Where will we be going to space, I'm sure. And then moving on to an orbit, I guess.
Space rockets sometimes need an extra boost. In a rare case of rocket scientists naming something well, these additional rocket engines are called boosters. Boosters are attached to the sides of a vehicle to keep them out of the way of the main engines. Solid fuel rockets make great boosters. They produce a very high thrust for a short time. Let's attach some boosters to the sides of your vehicle.
Very well. Where are they?
We'll start by attaching 4 radial decouplers that will eject the spent boosters when they're empty.
All right.
To make sure that these decouplers are evenly spaced and aligned with one another, you'll be using the symmetry tool. Great! Now when you place a part on one side of your rocket, 3 more evenly spaced duplicates will appear around the rocket. Go ahead and add 4
have radial
decouplers. Good! Now attach it as shown. Perfect! Now you've got 4 radial decouplers exactly where they need to be.
Yes, we have.
Let's attach those solid fuel boosters.
There they are.
Since you're still in 4x symmetry mode, simply attach this booster to one of the decouplers you just placed. That will attach copies of that booster to the remaining decouplers. Great job! You've finished your orbital rocket. You can symmetrically place up to 8 parts at once, a feat that could until now only be achieved by certain sea creatures.
Next, Well, it looks a little unsteady there. A small base with all those boosts around it. Maybe I should have put them lower. Sure.
Before you launch a rocket,
Yes, I should.
you need to plan the order of your staging events. Nobody wants to start out their flight by popping their parachute, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most parts that can be staged are automatically assigned to stages. Their activation order can be seen in the staging stack. You can change when staging events occur by moving them between stages.
All right.
You can also add, remove, and reorder stages. Best of all, you can do this in both the VAB and in flight.
All right.
The staging order begins at the bottom of the staging stack. You want your boosters and main engine to fire together for maximum thrust.
Mm-hmm.
The solid fuel boosters are currently in the second stage. If we don't change anything, the boosters will ignite late and detach themselves at the same time. This would be embarrassing for everybody, so let's move the boosters down to stage 1. Your solid fuel boosters burn very hard and very fast, so they will run out of fuel first. Even though your main engine and boosters will activate at the same time, you want to drop the empty boosters before you drop your main engine. You'll add a new stage above stage 1 to do one thing. Activate the radial decouplers to jettison your... Now move all 4 radial decouplers from stage 4 to your new
stage 2. There.
All done. Your remaining stages are set up so that stage 4 will
Fire
activate
bolt.
your orbital
Drop the
stage's
boosters.
engine.
Drop them in.
Stage 5 will detach the orbital stage's fuel tank when it's empty. And stage 6 will deploy your landing parachute.
Very good.
Thanks to you, this rocket is ready to fly.
Are we going yet? Are we going yet?
All right, we're ready to light this candle. In this flight, you're going all the way to orbit. I'll walk you through the process of launching, executing a gravity turn to get moving sideways, coasting to orbital altitude, and doing a final burn at the top of your arc to establish a stable orbit.
Very well.
Before we begin, let's talk about the nav ball. The nav ball shows your vehicle's orientation relative to the horizon. The blue half of the ball represents the sky, and the brown half represents the ground. The level
Is
indicator
it?
at the
No.
center shows your vehicle's orientation.
Where
When
is
you
it?
turn, the ball turns. When you roll, the ball rolls. Assuming you want your rocket pointed at the sky, you'll want to see lots of blue on the nav ball.
All right.
If you get confused, remember this rhyme. If the nav ball's brown, you're going down.
Where
At
is the
launch,
nav ball?
You want all your engines at maximum thrust, which
That's
means you
it?
need to set your throttle at
Oh, yeah.
100%. Your solid fuel boosters are way ahead of you on this. They have no setting other than full throttle, and they can't be shut off once they're lit. Once you hit the go button, they'll go full tilt until they run out of fuel. Still, your main engine's throttle is in your control. You can see your main throttle here. Left shift gradually increases your throttle. Left control gradually decreases your throttle.
Okay.
Z and X instantly set your throttle to 100 or 0% respectively. Left
to
click on the
100%.
throttle.
There we are.
Your fuel levels are visible within the staging
And we go.
stack. Right now you can see that your main engine and 4 boosters are all topped off and ready to rumble. It's time to go. At the start, all you need to do is fly straight up.
Mm-hmm.
I'll check back in with you once those boosters are empty.
Which they almost are.
It's time to start your gravity turn. A gravity turn uses the pull of the planet's gravity to help bend your vertical ascent into a horizontal arc. It's the
All right.
first step to entering orbit. For our first flight to orbit, we're going to start our gravity turn up to where the air is thin, at an altitude of around 10,000 meters. To show you where to aim your rocket, I've placed a target marker on your nav ball.
Okay.
First, we need to get to 10,000 meters.
Which we're doing. 7,000, 8,000, 9,000, and 10,000.
You're going to yaw towards the east so that the target marker is in the center of the nav ball. Your vessel and nav ball should look like this example video if you're performing the gravity turn correctly.
Come on.
Way to make Kerbin's gravity work. Your current stage's fuel is empty. Let's drop it and great job. Your rocket is on its way to orbit. As you gain experience, you can make your gravity turns more efficient by starting to tilt your rocket soon after liftoff. Adjusting course with a series of small corrections instead of one big one will leave you with a lot more fuel when you get to orbit. Turning immediately after launch requires a very stable rocket. So if you ever have trouble keeping the pointy end up, you can try the simplified wait and turn method we use today.
And on to next. We're up to orbit. Now we continue. So what's next? Stabilization coming down.
Right now, we're on a ballistic trajectory. If no further adjustments are made, your rocket will eventually fall back down to the ground. Our objective is to turn this arc into an orbit. The process of turning your trajectory into a circular orbit is called circularization. Partial credit to the rocket people on that one. It does have the word circle in it, but it's really hard to say.
True.
When planning and executing orbital maneuvers, you'll want to switch to map view, where you can see every part of your current trajectory.
All right.
The blue arc passing through your vehicle is its current trajectory, the path your rocket will follow if you don't touch the controls anymore. Our goal is to make that arc into a circular orbit. After you've coasted nearly to the top of this arc, you're going to point forward, and then you're going to ignite your engine. If you time this burn right, you'll never quite get to the top of the arc, as it'll keep widening in front of you until it wraps all the way around the planet.
Okay.
Let's break that down a little more. The top of your arc has a helpful tag in map view. It's
It looks
called
like it should be further than that.
abbreviated as AP. You're going to max out your throttle before you pass this point. We're paused at just before the apoapsis. We want to go faster in the direction we're already moving, so we need to make sure our rocket is pointed forward. There's a handy marker on your nav ball called the prograde marker. That represents your forward direction. Use the Stability Assist System, or SAS, to point your vessel at that marker. You're all lined up and ready to go. The next step is to go max throttle. It can take time for your arc to fully expand into an orbit. If you look closely at where your trajectory meets the ground, you'll see it moving toward the horizon. Once your trajectory reaches all the way around the planet, you'll see another marker on your orbit. This is the periapsis, or PE, the lowest point in your orbit. It'll always live on the opposite side of your orbit from the apoapsis, or highest point.
So we're working on circling the
Near
planet.
your apoapsis, you increase the altitude of your periapsis, the lowest point on your orbit. Here's the most important thing to remember about setting up an orbit above an atmosphere. Your periapsis must be higher than the atmosphere, or your rocket will start to slow down every time it dips into the upper atmosphere. On Kerbin, that means every part of your orbit must be higher than 70 kilometers. Okay, your orbit is fully out of the atmosphere. Cut the throttle. You did it! You're in orbit!
And we're in orbit,
This is
class.
where I usually tell you to look under your seat in the simulator, where you'd find a delicious celebratory treat. Sadly, since the vending machine in the astrodynamics lab broke down, it has gotten very difficult to hide snacks anywhere at KSC. Feel free to take a moment to admire your first orbit. In a way, you've given yourself a mind snack.
There you go.
Which is way better than the edible kind, anyway. Right? Right?
And that's orbit. Let's see what's next. Once again, the training center. And we have orbits are weird. today we'll just be covering the tutorial. We'll look into further next time.
Orbits are weird. Remember your orbiting baseball? What if you wanted to make its orbit higher? Well, it's a baseball, so grab your bat and try to hit the ball to a higher orbit. Your first thought might be to try to deflect the ball upwards. Unfortunately, hitting the ball upward bends its orbit so that it hits the ground before it can return to you. What you need to do is hit the ball in the direction it's already moving, adding to its already high velocity.
I
Now
thought
that
so.
you've
Speed.
sped the ball up,
Speed.
why isn't it flying any higher? It just keeps whizzing by at the same height it always did. After all, I said that making it go faster would make it go higher. What gives? The ball is actually going higher, but it's going higher on the opposite side of the planet from where you're standing. You've raised its orbit, and you've learned the first lesson of orbital maneuvering. Your actions affect the opposite side of your orbit. Weird, huh?
I see.
So your ball is moving faster, but it's still passing you at the same height. How do you get its orbit higher
Go
on
to the other
this side of
side.
the planet? Now that you know how changes in velocity affect the other side of your orbit, you've got all you need. By adding velocity to the ball at the highest point in its orbit, you raise the lowest point in its orbit and make it circular again.
Makes sense. There we are. So that's what we're going to be doing today, I believe. We're up in space right now. So I assume we're going to carry on from there.
An equatorial orbit is good, but if you want to travel beyond Kerbin, you will need to manipulate your orbit. Let's start with something simple, expanding an orbit. Remember how you circularized your orbit by increasing your forward velocity? To raise your orbit, you'll just do more of the same. It's time to burn progress. Now that we're pointed the right way, we can increase the throttle and watch our orbit expand. Ooh, cut the throttle. If you overdo it, you'll leave Kerbin's orbit. Nice. That maneuver raised our orbit on the other side of Kerbin, so we will enter high orbit there. Waiting to reach a specific point can be as eventful as watching the neon stripes on your rover dry. The paint job will be worth it, but isn't it better to rush to the end? Skip ahead to the good stuff using a time warp. Like I said earlier, the highest point of our orbit is called the apoapsis. The lowest point of our orbit is known as the periapsis. By default, your camera is focused on your vessel, so if you can't see either of these points, adjust your camera.
And we have them.
Scroll the middle mouse wheel to zoom in and out. Double-click an object to center your camera on it. Click the middle mouse button to enter FreeCam. Press Home to reset the camera to your active vessel.
Like the apoapsis icon.
Excellent! You can time warp to any position on your trajectory by selecting a point on your vehicle's current path, and then selecting Time Warp to Point.
That should be fine.
Now you're way up in the sky, so high that if you circularize your orbit now, you'll be in high orbit. Wow, the black starry void looks so small from here.
Alright, so we can do it at each side and time warp to the other one. That's fine. What's next?
From command pods to space probe cores, a lot of critical rocket parts use electric charge. You'll want to design your rocket so it can generate and store EC. Most rocket engines generate electric charge while active, but we'll still need a way to keep our batteries full while coasting between maneuvers. Solar panels convert Kerbal's light into EC for our rockets. Small solar panels can just be placed, but large solar panels are delicate and must only be deployed once we're out of the atmosphere.
Alright.
I've equipped this rocket with 2 deployable solar panels. Here's a hand crank. Get to work. Just kidding. There's a handy button that opens all of them with a single click. Give it a
Okay,
try.
where? Ah, there. Solar panels.
Great.
And there
The
we
solar
are.
panels are now extended. Light tracking solar panels only rotate on one axis, so we may need to reorient our ship to point them fully at the sun. Let's make sure the panels are getting direct sunlight by rolling our ship a little. Excellent. The solar panels are soaking up all. Getting EC is one thing, and storing it is another. Most command pods have a small battery, but many missions will call for additional EC storage. When we're traveling far from the sun or going to the dark side of a planet, more batteries means more peace of mind.
All right. One behind, Tiki. We're working. You have learned? Yep, we have. Next. All right, so that's solar panels and batteries. What's up next?
At some point, the crew will run out of snacks. Did you know a Kerbal is 99.9% more likely to crash when hungry? That's when it's time to head back down to Kerbin, a planet known for its plentiful snack options. First, let's get a better view for this operation.
Go to map view.
Remember how we burned prograde to raise our orbit?
Uh-huh.
To lower our orbit, we burn in the opposite direction, retrograde. Now flip retrograde. All right, the rocket is aligned to retrograde. As we decelerate, watch what's happening to our periapsis. Once it enters the atmosphere, this rocket is on a path back to the
We
ground.
see it.
Don't ease off the throttle yet, though. We're gonna keep burning until our trajectory intercepts the ground. This should give us a good. That's it. Let's stop our burn.
Nice.
Now that
And
we're
in we
on a
go.
collision course with Kerbin, we need to turn that collision into something more great. We're on our way down, and our heat shield
No
is
engine.
exposed.
So we're done.
Have you ever wondered what a marshmallow feels like when it catches on fire? You're about to find out.
And that was that. And we have an annoying space dog here. You're not Leica, you know. You're TikTok. TikTok is not a space dog. TikTok is an Earth dog. One more trip to the training center. For orbital transfers. And we'll see what this is.
Orbital transfers. As you know, the faster you go, the higher your orbit gets.
Indeed.
If you get moving fast enough, your orbit may cross the orbit of some other object, like a moon or a planet. The closest celestial body to Kerbin is the Mun. If you're looking for somewhere else to fly a rocket, the Mun is a good choice. The real trick to getting there is timing your departure so that the Mun captures your vehicle at its highest point. If you mistime your departure, you may miss the Mun entirely, which creates a lot of paperwork. Let's assume you've left
Let's
at the
come
right
behind
time,
TikTok,
and
I'm
the Mun
working.
is there to meet you. As your vessel approaches the Mun, it enters a zone in which the Mun's gravitational influence on your orbit is stronger than Kerbin's. This zone is called the Mun's sphere of influence. You've had to go very quickly to escape Kerbin's gravity, much too fast for the Mun's low gravity to capture you. If you don't slow down, your vehicle will speed past the Mun and be flung farther into space. Remember what I said about paperwork?
Yeah, not good.
Once you're in the Mun's gravity well, the best way to slow down is to fire your engines backwards until your trajectory becomes a nice, stable orbit. Now you're a moon of the Mun. Ha!
All right. Next. Let's do this.
Our rocket is in orbit over Kerbin and ready to fly. The mission today is to, drumroll please, intercept and orbit the Mun. To be captured by the Mun's gravity, our vessel must cross into the Mun's sphere of influence, or SOI, the zone in which its gravity is stronger than any other celestial body around it. We're going to create a maneuver
mode,
plan
of
to fit.
course.
Great! Now here's a new trick. We can select any object as a target in map view. Targeting gives us useful information and enables new tools. Once we've targeted a celestial body or other object in space, our maneuver will provide closest pass and plane angle information. This can be very helpful for meeting up with someone or something in space. Right now, our camera is following our vessel as it orbits Kerbin. Let's adjust our camera until we can see the Mun.
Set target.
We want to place this maneuver plan with two things in mind. First, the Mun is in motion. We can't aim our spacecraft where the Mun is right now. Instead, we have to aim where the Mun will be after our vehicle has coasted all the way from Kerbin.
All right.
Second, remember how increasing velocity raises the opposite side of our orbit? Since we're placing this maneuver plan where we intend to start our burn, we should place it on the opposite side of Kerbin from where we intend to intercept the Mun. Placing a maneuver plan usually involves making a best guess, and then fiddling with the maneuver until you get an intercept. Fortunately, you've got a crack navigator with you today. By my calculations, we'll want to put our maneuver here.
Right-click near periapsis. Right there. That's not right. Oh, left-click near periapsis. Create maneuver plan.
Excellent. We've just created a maneuver plan. While we could find out if our departure timing is correct by just picking a direction and maxing the throttle, a maneuver plan tells us in advance how much delta V we'll need, how long we'll need to burn, and in what direction our vessel will need to point during the maneuver.
Okay.
Grab and pull the arrows to plan a burn along that direction. This maneuver is pretty simple. We want to burn prograde and expand our orbit.
Okay.
Nice! That maneuver event towards the end of your trajectory is exactly what we're looking for.
It is?
It tells that if we execute this plan, we'll intercept the Mun.
Okay.
If a maneuver looks right, but we're not getting the intercept we expect, we can change the starting position of the maneuver by grabbing and dragging the middle of the maneuver plan along our orbit. It's very common to refine a maneuver plan by adjusting both the position of the maneuver and the direction of the planned burn.
Okay.
If we don't want to maneuver at all, we can delete the plan, either by right-clicking the gizmo and selecting delete, or through the burn timer. Maneuvers are invaluable when leaving Kerbin. Feel free to come back and practice anytime.
And that's that. Well, that was confusing, but I guess we'll get used to it later on. What else do we have?
We've got a maneuver plan that intercepts the Mun. Now we just need to execute that maneuver and fly to the Mun ourselves.
Map mode, of course.
Whenever we have a maneuver plan, a burn timer will appear. The timer shows you how much time is left until we need to execute the maneuver. I've paused the simulation for a moment, so this number won't count down quite yet. The timer also tells us how long we'll need to burn our engines at 100% throttle in order to complete the maneuver.
Okay.
Now let's take a look at the nav ball. A new marker has joined our old. Now your vehicle is properly oriented. And through the magic of SAS and more math than I'd like to admit, our vessel is properly oriented. We're still far from our planned burn, so let's speed things up. While we could rely on our reflexes to time warp at the perfect moment, alas, departure burn, here we come.
Okay, so we need to go to maximum.
I like explosions too, but now isn't the time to start
Oh.
your burn. Let's try again.
I thought it was. You're breaking it up into another one? All right.
We've got a maneuver plan
Oh.
that intercepts the Mun.
Okay.
Now we just need to execute
Map
that
mode.
maneuver and fly. Whenever we have a maneuver plan, a burn timer will appear.
Yes.
The timer also tells us how
Yes.
long we'll need to burn our engines. Now let's take a look at the nav ball. A new
Okay.
marker has joined our old prograde and retrograde markers. This is called a maneuver marker, and it shows us the orientation of our planned maneuver. We'll want to make sure that this marker is in the center of our nav ball during our maneuver burn. Luckily, we can aim at this maneuver marker by selecting the maneuver button on your SAS controls. Now your vehicle is properly oriented, and through the magic of SAS and more math than I'd like to admit, our vessel is properly oriented. We're still far from our planned burn, so let's speed things up. While we could rely on our reflexes to time warp at the perfect moment, a less stressful alternative is warping to a specific point in our orbit. See this button?
I get it.
Select it to warp departure burn. Here we come.
So we're getting towards the departure burn. And then we're ready.
Great! We've exited just before our maneuver burn, and I've paused the simulation once more. After we select continue, remember to wait until the countdown reaches 0. Then we'll go full throttle until our burn timer reaches 0. Then cut the throttle quickly to avoid overshooting our target.
I believe I may have overshot last time and therefore overshot this part last time. And therefore would have had to circle again.
Okay, get ready to hit the throttle.
26, 25, 24, 23. I'm down to 20. Keep steady, class. Keep steady. We're almost there. 15. And 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And hit it.
Watch the burn timer. We want to stop our burn once it reaches 0.
And we're coming down. Well, the timer's coming down, I should say. 30. We get closer to the appropriate speed. 20. And 15. 10. 9. 8. 7. 6. 5. 4. 3. 2. 1. And drop.
Everything. Great work. You've successfully executed a maneuver, and now we're on our way to the Mun.
Next.
It's going to take a while to reach the Mun, but don't let the wait fool you. We're now moving faster than any Kerbal has ever flown before.
Good.
When we enter the Mun's sphere of influence, we'll be going way too fast for the Mun's gravity to capture our vehicle.
Then we'll need to slow down.
To orbit the Mun, we'll need to burn retrograde once we're inside its SOI, or sphere of influence. This will slow us down enough to keep us from being whipped into interplanetary space.
Makes sense. Map mode, of course.
Let's start by time warping until we're within the Mun's sphere of influence. That's the sphere within which the Mun is the primary gravitational influence on your vehicle. Let's get a little bolder with our time warp this time. Farewell, Kerbin. We'll miss you.
And we're moving towards...
Welcome
We're
to the
in.
Mun's sphere of influence. Let's slow down to Did you notice that we've got a periapsis above the Mun, but no apoapsis?
Yes.
That's because we're going too fast to complete an orbit before
head to
sailing past
space.
the Mun. Don't worry, we have time to adjust. Our objective is to slow down enough so that both apoapsis and periapsis are within the Mun's sphere of influence.
Sounds good.
Remember the rule of orbital opposites. Because we want to lower your apoapsis, we'll need to place our maneuver plan
Then,
at the
okay.
periapsis. Let's get started.
Okay, the maneuver plan.
In order to reduce our apoapsis, we need to slow down by burning backwards, or retrograde. This is a little like deorbiting over Kerbin, but we're going to stop burning before our trajectory meets Mun dust.
Pulling on the retrograde. Which is the retrograde? This?
Maneuver plan set. Next up, let's make sure we're pointed where we need to be.
Okay, and we need to point to the
If the
maneuver.
maneuver is right, and we're pointed in the right direction, now we need to time warp to the right position. And we're on our way.
I don't think this is right at all.
Almost there. When the countdown reaches 0, throttle up to start your capture burn.
Okay, so we're at coming down from 40. Come on, 30. Down to 20 soon. And then 15. Accidentally did a little bit there. Let's hope this still works.
Keep burning until the burn timer reaches 0.
50.
Shut the engines now. We have an orbit. Fantastic. That was some fancy flying. Looks to me like you're about ready to try this for real.
I don't know about that, but we may have to do. And tutorial. Right then, class. It looks like that might be the end of the tutorial. I'm not sure if there's anything left. No, there isn't. So, join us next time, and we'll see where we can go from there. Class dismissed.